All right. So Matt Connarton talking with Dirk Don. Is that your real name, sir?
Yes and no. Here's the thing. When it comes to content creation, use a pen name. If you use your real name, you are asking for trouble.
Ah, interesting. What do you mean? Expand on that, if you would.
Well, so, all right. If you look at Joe's Facebook page,
yes,
his full name is right there for you. and if somebody is looking to give him trouble, they can do that just by looking him up. And so for me, it's like I've got to be able to protect myself and my family. You know, like there's a lot I could lose.
Right. No, that makes sense. I'm guessing though that Joe. Crazy Joe probably doesn't have any family who speaks to him or associates with him in any way. But I mean, I'm just guessing. But you know, who really wants to?
I'll assume he does.
What's that?
I'll assume he does.
Yes. So, well, I want to ask you about, and we'll talk about a number of things. And thank you, by the way, for calling. This is great. Jenny and I were both very impressed with the video that you created, the mini documentary, if that would be the appropriate term, regarding Crazy Joe.
Yeah, you could call that.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't have it in front of me. What was it? Crazy Joe, How Not to Run a Podcast?
It's How Not to Run a Show, the Crazy Joe train wreck.
Yes. So, Dirk, what inspired you to create that video? Which is, again, Jenny and I were very pleased with it. It's wonderfully done, and it was a cool surprise to see that online. But what inspired you?
Yeah, so there are a lot of people that do exactly the kind of video that I've done, and I tend to wear my influences on my sleeve. So when I discovered Joe last year, and it was from someone that I know posting something that Joe posted, and I thought, okay, this is a little bit off. Let's check out the page. Let's check out some of the live streams. It's like, okay, well, where's the show? And I realized, like, okay, maybe there's some screws loose with this person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I silently watched for months, and I was thinking, okay, you know what? I could maybe do a video talking about this guy, and more of a way of explaining, like, hey, here's what you don't do when running a show. Here's what you don't do with audiences. But then something magical happened. I found out him rambling about you and Jenny, and so I paid a little extra close attention here. And saw what was going on. It's like, okay, now I can actually do a lot more with the content that I'm putting out about this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I reached out to you.
Yeah, I noticed that one of the things that you say in the video is you talk about how prior to seeing his content about Jenny and I, how you, if content would be even the right word for what Crazy Joe does, that you regarded him as potentially a somewhat sympathetic character, but then you were very turned off when you realized, or you lost your sympathy for him or empathy or whatever it may have been, when you realized that, you know, not only might he have some screws loose, but apparently he's kind of I shouldn't say kind of, he's a bigot for all intents and purposes.
Yes. It was during his first video that I listened to him talking about Jenny, and I was listening into the way that he was talking about her when he was saying things like her heritage. I was like, okay, that's a key phrase here. Like, I don't believe in I don't believe in dog whistles very much. Usually dog whistles are created by people that are looking for something to get angry about.
Mm-hmm.
But Joe's case was very blatant, saying things like it's in her heritage, it's what her kind does. And then, you know, it only got worse from there when he was saying things like how you, Matt, are apparently a traitor to your own kind, and then talking about black people the way that he did. It was like, no, like, like I could tell, even if he apologized to you guys, like there's nothing he's going to have professionally between you.
Right. He was kind of on what I now realize was his best behavior for a long time, where he wasn't introducing any of that. I mean, I would see early on, getting to know him, videos where, he might use homophobic slurs here and there, which I certainly don't approve of either. But there are certain words that sometimes people use very casually, and they don't necessarily mean anything homophobic. It's just kind of, certain words that, we really don't use anymore. Actually, some words that were considered politically incorrect even when I was a kid. And I'm in my 40s. So some of those words that he uses, haven't been appropriate for literally decades. But, older guy, he's 64 years old. You kind of let some things slide. Not all ignorance is necessarily with malice, but what we realize now is he was just kind of, I guess he is capable of some level of discipline, because he was able to manage to hold some of that back from Jenny and I until he became angry with us. And then what we've noticed is once he became angry at us, there was a gradual escalation. He started making references to Jenny's quote unquote heritage. And we know what that's about. Jenny's Jewish, and then he started, he complains about hip hop, but then he started getting more and more aggressive about how he refers to Black Americans. And Jenny and I were genuinely shocked when he went so far as to use the N-word for the first time in one of his videos that we're aware of. But it was kind of a gradual escalation,
He used that?
Yeah, he uses, I've heard him do it, I think, twice now, a variation of the word. He only uses one syllable, and I think he thinks that gets him off the hook somehow. By the way, Dirk, we are joined in studio by our friend Christian LaCoss, who is a content...
Christian, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm good.
Yeah, Christian got kind of pulled into this whole thing with Crazy Joe, and Christian is also a content creator, so he's very excited to talk to you, and he enjoyed the documentary as well.
100%. I heard YouTube, and I was very interested.
Oh yeah.
But no, like he came at Matt when he came at you and Jenny.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I was like, oh, okay, you don't do this. You don't do this. You don't do this. And then he started throwing shots at me. And first off, he couldn't even say my last name right. And you know how I get about that. I mean, I'm trying to be comedic about this, but this guy...
Well, listen to what he does to my last name.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy. But nah, man, I was actually with some people last night, and they overheard all of this.
Yeah.
And they overheard him say that he was going to sexually assault me.
Yeah.
And that's when they were like, what is going on?
Yeah. I don't know how much of the more recent...
So many live streams last night too.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you've heard the very most recent ones, Dirk, but yeah, he just gets it. It's like Crazy Joe is devolving right before our eyes into this really just genuinely horrible person. It's incredible.
I even called him to get him off the phone. Get him off the live stream to just talk to him.
Yeah.
And then all night last night, I'm dead serious when I say this. He called me like 10 times.
Oh, yeah.
Under an unknown number.
Yeah.
And just kept using these sound bites. And I tried to screen record it, and I couldn't do it. And it was just so irritating.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of his live stream, I got so sick of it that he invited my friend to go live because she was watching on her phone because he banned me from commenting. And I showed up, and he wasn't too happy.
Yeah.
When he invited that person to their live, and then I showed up.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dirk. What were you going to say?
Yeah. And this is after he was complaining about his phone being called as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that was Christian.
That was me.
But but the thing is, like, you can actually get his phone number by trying to call his Facebook page.
Yep.
Like, Matt doesn't have to give it out.
Actually, that's the wrong phone number.
Yeah, the number on
is it?
the number on his Facebook page is different than the number I have. So
I was trying to de-escalate it for a little bit, and then he started going off.
Yeah, I gave Christian his number, and I I do still have his number in my phone if someone needs to get a hold of Joe for any reason. But could always message you that. But anyway, yeah. So it's just been pretty incredible to watch him. I'm surprised by this, Dirk. Tell me if this surprises you that this guy continues to be on Facebook with the things that he says.
I've had 20 people report him today.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be any consequence, though. It's amazing to me.
I think he's broke the filter.
Yeah, I guess so.
Honestly.
Well, it's a little weird to get into because Facebook is both automated and not automated at the same time. There are points where they'll actually have people look at the content to see if it is worth taking down or not. And I'm thankful that Joe isn't doing anything else that is stupid, because if he does anything like try doing copyright claims, like, you could actually take him to court for that. And he is threatening to sue me, so I guess I better be on my bestest behavior.
I'm gonna say here, I do plan the minute, actually, no, never mind. I'm gonna keep that low.
Okay.
Actually. I was gonna say it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and expand. Go ahead and expand on that, Dirk. You were saying that Crazy Joe is actually threatening to sue you?
Yeah. So I found out that after work he messaged my Arrogant Media Facebook page, and he asked, "Do you got money? Because I'm going to sue you." And I'm censoring what he typed, and so I asked him for what. He said, "You'll see." So I told him, "That's not an answer. Again, what are you trying to sue me for?"
Free speech,
so
buddy.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. The reason why I want Joe to watch this is because Joe is wanting to act like he's such a patriot. But if he is a patriot, then he needs to stand behind the ideal, the principle of free speech. And I'm not just talking the First Amendment. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about Joe is trying to intimidate me to get me to shut up. Mm-hmm. That is censorship. And if Joe wants to be against censorship, then he needs to knock off what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, do you think? So, what do you think his deal is? Do you think he's just very arrogant in that he thinks only he should be able to say what he wants to say, but doesn't think anyone has the right to criticize him? Or do you think he's just because I wonder if it's something a little bit deeper than just arrogance, but also, and I suspect you might agree with me on this. I also think he possesses a complete lack of self-awareness. Well,
he reminds me of a YouTuber named Onision. You ever heard of him?
Yes, the name is familiar to me.
Okay, so I'll give a little bit of background here then. Onision is an extremely manipulative person who will use his platform to say whatever he wants to, but if someone criticizes him, he'll go after that person. At one point, another YouTuber named Repzion, who has been documenting everything that's been going on with Onision as far as things like abuse allegations or abuse of copyright. And this caught Onision's attention, who took Repzion to court, and the court was not having it.
Yeah, I would imagine. Wow. But he actually took him to court? That's incredible.
Yeah, so Repzion had to pay the court fines that were wasted on Onision. And so if Joe ever wants to take that kind of route, it is never going to look good for him. Like, he's going to lose whatever audience he will have if he is not careful with what he's doing. He wants to act like he's the savior of real rock and roll, whatever that means. But at the same time, he talks about how, I'm just okay with talking to myself here. Like, it doesn't work that way. You cannot pick one. You got to pick one.
Yeah. Well, that's too one of the fascinating paradoxes of Crazy Joe is that he desperately wants people to pay attention to him, and he wants an audience. But he, at the same time, he will find any excuse he can to get angry at that very audience. And he gets very, very mad if you leave without, as you pointed out in your documentary, he gets very, very mad if you are paying attention to him and you're in his audience and then you leave without saying goodbye. This is deeply upsetting to him.
That's just not understanding how the internet works.
Yeah.
Joe is going to admit that he doesn't know how to work with computers and stuff, but he does not know. He does not want to acknowledge how things work online. And if anything like if websites like 8chan or Kiwi Farms ever got a hold of Joe and saw what he was doing and wanted to mess with him, that would be the end of the guy.
Yeah. So where do we go from here with Crazy Joe? Do you think should we all just start ignoring him? Should we?
Yeah, honestly.
I mean, what do we, or do we? I mean, I've been entertained by this experience. Jenny, I think, not to speak for her, but I think is a little bit conflicted because I think, in one sense, she finds this all as entertaining as I do, but at the same time, she's uncomfortable being targeted by anyone about her quote unquote heritage, as Crazy Joe likes to say. So, I mean, does this eventually resolve itself anyway, in that one day we'll realize that Crazy Joe has been entirely deplatformed? I mean, what do you think, Dirk, is the responsible thing to do here? Or does it matter?
You ever heard of a lol cow?
Yes.
It's spelled LOLCOW. Okay. Right now, we are milking the lol cow.
Yes.
As long as it's producing milk, the farmers have been right there to get the bucket for them.
Uh-huh.
And I am all for making content until it stops being funny. So the thing is, what I try not to do is repeat myself. So if I do want to make another video discussing Joe and talking about how his methods of trying to censor me are completely unpatriotic and anti-American. And against the principle of free speech.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to just keep repeating myself about how he gets overly angry, he's pushing people out, because I've already said that.
Yeah.
But when the happenings happen, and if people want to talk about it, they're going to talk about it.
Yeah, and Crazy Joe has been very repetitive in his videos, except I think the one thing that keeps it interesting is that very incremental escalation that occurs in the in his tone and tenor and in the rhetoric that he uses. It started out, he was when everything first sort of broke open, he was very disappointed in me, and then the anti-Semitism started to creep in successive videos, and then the racism and the homophobia, I guess, was always there, but all the bigotry as that gradually increases, and he hasn't outright. Oh, and the threat that he made against Christian, that was something new and a bit of a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, I'm assuming that any day now we're just going to find, I can't believe it hasn't happened already, but I think any day now we're going to find that he is no longer on Facebook, which is why I have taken the step to download all of his videos, and because I wanted to make sure that all of this is permanently documented. When it came to the point where he started talking about contacting WMNH, which is where we are right now, and getting me fired, I was like, okay, I definitely need to document everything this guy says, because as we were talking about on the show earlier, and I know, Dirk, you were in the chat room, so you probably caught some of this. We were talking about, some people would prefer that we ignore Crazy Joe, and others believe, as I think you believe, you must, or you wouldn't have made that video, that no, we need to name him and shame him.
Here's
and
why I'm sick of him.
Yes.
Because this is the second or third thing I've been involved with, and it's starting to get repetitive, and it's starting to get exhausting.
Yeah.
Because even my friends were like, weren't you just last night, man? They were like, you're constantly under the microscope, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm like, to put it this way, controversy creates clicks. But it creates clicks until, you get so tired of it, you just don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And last night, it was like, when you're taking it to that level, I know I probably shouldn't have taken what he said personally, but I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, that's sick.
Yeah.
Can I address Christian for a moment?
Please. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Christian. So you seem like a young dude right now. You've got it sounds like you've got a lot going on for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what Crazy Joe said towards you is something that you absolutely do not deserve. And I'm very proud for you. I don't like to say I'm proud of people. I'm proud for you for wanting to be able to stand up to yourself. It is one of my principles, not just as a Satanist, but as a person myself. Like if someone messes with you and they will not stop, you make them pay for it. So, but make sure that you are keeping a sense of self-preservation, because you don't need that guy ruining any aspect of your life whatsoever. You've got way too much going on, man.
Oh, 100%. I've clearly learned that over the past few weeks. Especially this week.
That's a lesson
that's a lesson for a few things I've done this week, actually.
Yeah, that's a lesson Christian has been learning. But Dirk, I think that is excellent advice. It's very, very easy. I dare say it's probably human nature for people to inadvertently harm themselves while trying to punish others or even the score or whatever it may be. That's why we have these idioms like "don't cut your nose off to spite your face." So I think that's excellent advice, Dirk. And Christian, he's 20 years old. He's got a lot of life ahead of him, and he's been on a very positive path with a lot of really great things happening. And I don't want to see him mess that up. Over certainly not over somebody like Crazy Joe, who certainly isn't worth it. So
yeah, no.
Yeah.
Can we all just
so how
also
did you come
talk
across this guy? Did he just randomly call you during your show at one point?
Yeah.
Is that the case? Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, he just happened to stumble. He just happened to stumble across my program online and started calling and we were intrigued with him. He kept calling, kind of enjoyed his calls. I think there was one or two instances, we're on FM terrestrial radio. So there was a couple of times I had to hit the dump button. We're on a 8-second delay because he kind of went a little too, he never swore, but there were a couple of things where he went a little far
100%.
with, maybe sexual innuendo or whatever. But for the most part, we enjoyed his calls. And then there came a point where he started getting angry at us because we weren't tuning into his videos and our fans were not going to his videos. So he started lashing out at not only me, but all the people of New Hampshire. And so this is actually
Imagine he emails the governor.
Yeah.
You're not watching my show.
That would be funny. So this is actually our second time through this, because he got really angry and then he just stopped and he went away. And then he came back like 4 months later and started calling us again. And this time things have gone much, much further. But it's actually our second go around with Crazy Joe. But there shall not be a third, obviously, now that we know the real Crazy Joe and what a bigot the guy is.
For real. Can we also talk about how on his website and stuff, the mic he's posing with, right?
Yeah.
It's not even plugged in.
Yeah.
There's no XLR.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm like, does this man really know what he's doing? Or
no.
Are these all props?
Yeah, it's all props. I mean, if you look in the back, and I Dirk, I think you might have pointed this out or alluded to it in your video, but his equipment is it appears to be useless. He posts pictures and videos with equipment behind him, and then if you look really closely, it's cassette tape decks and stuff that isn't actually plugged into anything. It's kind of bizarre. It's almost like a fantasy world that he's constructed for himself.
It is. So it brings me back to my own humble beginnings where, excuse me, my whole thing with content creation started with a good friend of mine approaching me about how he wanted to make a podcast at some point. And so I thought about it and I realized, okay, I've got a MacBook and I've got a really crappy USB microphone.
That's how I started.
It's a blue snowball microphone. So I just stuck that between us and we used it to record, and it sounded like garbage, but I knew the content was good. And then once I was more comfortable with trying to do things in a way that sounded more professionally, I picked up a mixing board and I learned how to properly use it. And if Joe wants any kind of progress in what he's doing, he will do the same, and he's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. By the way, just a side note. So I started out in we were using a very old computer. This was I've been doing this for quite a while. I'm in my 40s, and when we started in a hair salon that I was working at, and off hours when that was the original iteration of this show. Off hours at a hair salon using a very old computer and one of those Logitech mics that just literally, no exaggeration, a $10 microphone that would plug into the back of the computer and, sounded like we were speaking through a tin can. But that was my beginnings. The humblest of humble beginnings.
That's the thing. You had to start somewhere, but the big point was that you were working to build what you were doing, and the method as well. And by putting out the effort that I did, I was able to accomplish a good deal of things. I've been able to run interviews with different bands. I've been able to interview the voice actor of Bulma from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh,
it's like I've been able to do really, really cool things, and it's because I worked to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I mean, same goes for me with any social media in general. Mm-hmm. I ran a journalism page for a while that got up to about 5,000 followers, and I interviewed Pete Buttigieg. I probably just said his name completely wrong.
Everyone does.
Yeah, it's
yeah, we all do.
And I interviewed him, and I interviewed a few other people, and I got into all these events to see how politics work, and then I was like, well, this is interesting. And then it was also social media that brought me to this radio station too when I was 17.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm 20 now.
But it's about putting in the effort.
Yeah. Can I talk about this thing about like rock and roll being dead and saving rock and roll?
Oh, yeah, it's completely dead, man.
Yeah.
So, like, bands don't really need the big name record labels like they used to. My favorite band, Fear Factory, just came out with a new album, and it just released last Friday. And it's available on vinyl. It's available on cassette. I have both of those two ordered and coming in the mail soon. Like I'm still buying my music off of cassette. The audience is there, but the audience is never going to be static. Like I've started listening to a lot more dungeon synth, which sounds like 1990s computer fantasy music, and it was originated by black metal musicians in the 90s. You have to find new stuff that's out there because it is. You just have to dig for it.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Yeah, totally. It's funny. I was just a little bit earlier, I was having a conversation with my father. My dad is 74 years old, and my dad he's unique, and he's always been like this. He loves listening to and finding new music. Like he's never gotten stuck in the past. He's and it's genuine too. It's not like he's trying to fit in with people who are younger. He loves, not that he doesn't appreciate, the golden oldies or whatever, but he lives in an area where there's a college radio station, and he loves listening to that station and being exposed to all kinds of new music. My uncle is like that too. So maybe there's something genetic, because most people stop listening to, you know, they just, at a certain age, they just say, okay, I've heard all the music I'm ever going to like, and I never want to hear anything new from this moment forward for whatever bizarre reason. But my dad's never been like that. And my dad said to me, he said, hey, by the way, tell Crazy Joe there's a lot of great new music out there, and he just needs to give it a chance. Now, I don't think I'm not going to bother to pass that advice on to Crazy Joe because he doesn't want to hear it and he's not going to do it. But even my 74-year-old father understands that you know, you don't need to save rock and roll. Rock and roll is doing just fine, and there's plenty of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if it goes the way of like swing music, like back in the day, swing music was the big thing. Mm-hmm. But if it becomes no longer the big popular form of music, that's okay. Like, culture is always going to constantly evolve. Mm-hmm. Even hip hop is not the same as what it used to be. Like my father,
100%.
My father in the 80s, like, started to become bored of music. Like, he doesn't think that Iron Maiden is metal either. And so when I was growing up, I was like listening to just Christian rock because that's all I knew. So it was stuff like Petra, Newsboys. But then once the movie Triple X came out, like, I went to the theater for that with my father, and we both discovered Rammstein. And it just lit him up. He loved it. Got to a point where he and I were purchasing our own copies of the same album. He's gone to see them live. Like, he loves the artistic merit that the band has. Mm-hmm. And to see him passion for that was incredible. And then seeing him discover dubstep and like really enjoy what he was hearing back when that was a big deal. Like, that was so much fun to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool.
Which is awesome because being a DJ, that's actually how I got into DJing, was EDM and dubstep type music. Because I've always had an interest in it, and coming from a musical background. I've been doing sound engineering and audio stuff since I was 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't stop doing that. Like, a buddy of mine has been DJing for the Radio Free Satan Network, doing the Metal Grotto for 7 years now, and like I love the effort that he puts into it because he genuinely makes a great show.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I try to do every day because, you know, listen, I said something earlier too. Music, you know, it's my therapy, and you know, DJing too. That's exactly where I want to be because I'm in front of a crowd. I'm putting on a show, whether it's lights, you know, music, hyping the crowd up, getting these people dancing. That's my therapy right there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I think with Crazy Joe, I think with the music, it's like, I think everything about Crazy Joe, whether it be the music or his attitudes about things and the language that he uses, it's all, he's like he traveled here from the past. I don't even know what year. But it's like he's not from the year 2021. You know what I mean? He's a 64-year-old man, but he's a 64-year-old man from 1974 or something. You know what I mean? It's maybe he's a time traveler and we just don't know it. I don't know.
And there's a place for people that want to play the music that Crazy Joe likes. Like, the audience is there. It's, you know, he's obviously part of that audience. Like, if he wants to make it, then he has every ability to do so. He just needs to put the effort.
Right, exactly. But he never will. Well, you know what? I think, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add about Crazy Joe, but I do want to hear about everything else you've got going on, Dirk, because you've got a lot going on online with Madcast. And I do want to ask you, too, and I'm sure you're asked about this constantly, but did you want to give us a quick explanation or a clarification or anything about Satanism? Because, you know, I'm sure you deal with it all the time with what people think when they hear that. And it's not, I know it's not what they, perhaps you're a Levian, I don't know, but I know it's not. I guess what I'm getting at is, do you want to clarify that you don't worship the devil? Unless you do worship the devil, but I don't think that you do.
Theistic Satanism isn't really a thing. We're atheists who like theatrics.
Yeah.
I I am an advocate for the religion because I like to help people understand the religion. So I'm very active on Reddit about it, and having people approach me saying like, "Hey, I learned a lot from you." Like that itself feels fantastic. But it's really like we don't like to proselytize. We don't like to try to get as many members as possible. We're misanthropic. We don't like other people, and we want to see the best in people that they're able to produce. That's really the big idea. If you've got a talent and you want to make something out of it in your life, do it. We're not like the church is not interested in like how much of the Satanic Bible have you memorized. It's all about how do you actually put the philosophy into your everyday life. And so I'm open about the religion because of my advocacy for helping people understand what it's about.
Yeah.
But other people that are in the religion, they're in the shadows. They are firefighters or police officers. You may have come across people who are in that religion and never would have known it. And I will also mention one more thing about Joe here.
Sure.
I will invite him to have a discussion.
No.
If he's willing to, I will invite him to have an on-camera discussion so that he can say everything that he wants to me directly.
Yeah.
He won't do it though.
He won't.
Oh, he won't do it because whatever he says will be used against him, just like in the video I put out.
No, because he likes to silence people is what he likes to do, and he's made it clear.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Although, see, one person he will never block, though. I firmly believe this, because he has blocked a lot of people from his videos, watching his videos when he gets angry at them. But I believe he will never block me because he needs, I think if he were to block me, all of a sudden making those videos and insulting Jenny and I would be much less exciting for him. What do you think, Dirk?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not all vampires suck blood.
Yes. That's right. Energy vampires. You did make a reference to that in the chat room. That's true. That's true.
Yep.
Well, tell us about your podcasting adventures and making videos and all that.
Sure. So the very first podcast that I started is called Super Arrogant Bros, and it's a gaming show. And I've been podcasting ever since the middle of 2016. And we joined Madcast Media back in January 2018 is when I first started putting the content on that platform. Madcast Media is the podcast network that is run by my very personal intellectual hero and sometimes mentor, Maddox. I don't know if you've ever read his old articles like I Am Better Than Your Kids, where he grades children's artwork.
No, I'm not aware.
He's like the first internet satirist. You can find him on the best page in the universe.net.
Oh,
he's a great friend, great guy. And so I'm proud. I'm very proud to have been able to talk to him on the level that I've had, because I've been able to share really in-depth and personal stuff with him. And then right now, today, we've actually moved on from having the show being a podcast to just doing YouTube videos, which allows a lot more freedom to what we're able to do. So it's all on the Arrogant Media YouTube channel, and on every other Thursday night, I do another show called The Plastic Paladins, which was started off as a podcast, but now it's a live streamed YouTube stream done with my good co-host and my good friend Stev, who is basically my Shaggy 2 Dope, as I'm the Violent J, with that Insane Clown Posse reference I made there, but also very, very good friends from another podcast called You Hate to See It. They've been phenomenal with the content we've been making. So, and then besides those two shows, whatever I decide to put out on YouTube, whether it's talking about John Schaefer at the Capitol riots, or when I talked about Courtney Love and how she's a person that nobody should ever be trusting, it's like a free reign thing where I can post what I want to.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, very cool. Very cool. So what's the best place for people to go online to get access to all of your stuff? Should they go to the Madcast site or?
The Madcast site is going to be able to give access to all the stuff I've been putting out previously. Well, I still post there. I'm trying to figure out what to do about videos on that website because
I gotcha.
We made that switch. So yeah, so we're having like multiple Super Arrogant Bros videos per week, and I don't want to just flood the poor guy's website with just a slew of Super Arrogant Bros.
Yeah, yeah.
But either way, listen to Maddox's podcast too. He's been doing Godzilla versus Podcast Zero with his good friend Haley. But for the stuff that I do with Stev, my co-host, that's all on the Arrogant Media YouTube channel.
Okay. Excellent. Very cool. Well, now I want to, before we wrap up, Dirk, I want to ask you the same question that I asked our friend Alex Whiteley, who I from the UK, who Skyped in with us, and he's also a content creator. Kind of, but not necessarily bringing it back to Crazy Joe, because this could be really advice for anyone. In fact, let's take Crazy Joe out of the equation and imagine that you're speaking to someone who actually you might be able to help. For someone who wants to get into podcasting or YouTubing, creating content, broadcasting, whatever it is, as someone who is now very experienced and successful, and what advice would you give to somebody?
For somebody who wants to get into podcasting, I would say don't.
Really?
Unless you are absolutely passionate about the project, because it is almost impossible to build an audience off of podcasting. The way that the industry is right now, the big podcasts right now are already established, and the new ones that are going to become big are done by people who are already celebrities. So Bill Burr, Ozzy Osbourne, like all the big names. But if you really do believe in your project and you want to do it, then look into proper audio equipment and practice being able to talk in front of a microphone. And in fact, I took Maddox's advice with this one thing I'm going to share with you here. Maddox talked about when it comes to starting a podcast, record a few episodes and then delete them.
100%.
Then start the show.
I've done that before back when I was trying to do my podcast.
Oh yeah.
That was an absolute dumpster fire, but hey.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad I stuck with YouTube, which I haven't posted on in like a few months. But we're working on it. We're working on it.
Yeah. That's good advice, though. Yeah. That's good advice.
Thank you.
What? Yeah.
For YouTube, though.
Oh, go ahead. What?
Well, for YouTube? Yeah, for YouTube, make sure your audio is good.
100%.
Same thing. Whether it's a USB microphone or any kind of equipment you're using. The biggest key is making sure that you sound good. If you sound good, you're more likely to keep someone's attention than the video quality.
Agreed. Yes. Absolutely. And the other thing you said about, celebrities, because they're already established, it reminds me of something, Dirk, and funny enough, I said this to Crazy Joe once, and he didn't get what I was trying to tell him back during our first go around with him when he was asking me for advice on how to be famous when, I'm not famous. So I don't know why you're asking me, Crazy Joe, but he, he was asking me about how to be successful in broadcasting and with a podcast. Or actually, it was specifically about podcasting. And I tried to tell him about something I read a long time ago. It was back when, do you remember when Adam Carolla, he was kind of one of the first people to really leave terrestrial radio and go all in on podcasting. And I believe he was the first person to ever have 1 million downloads of a single episode of his podcast. And so this was maybe 15, somewhere between 12 and 15 years ago, I think. I have a limited concept of time. But I remember somebody asking him in an interview at the time, because he was the biggest podcast in the world at the time. Now it's clearly Joe Rogan. Oh, the Corolla still does really well, I think. But somebody asked him in an interview, Adam, what is the secret to having a big successful podcast like you are? Do you have any advice? And his advice was already be famous. Because if you're already famous, you're going to have a successful podcast.
Exactly.
And if you're not already famous, it's going to be a long, hard slog.
And that's why a lot of these big name YouTubers like Logan Paul, a few other people, dude, they went over and they killed the podcast game.
Yeah. But it's
if you're getting in on any of this to become famous, then you're doing it for exactly the wrong reason.
I was just about to say,
never do this
don't do it
expecting to make it a job.
Right.
That's like DJing. I had someone tell me the other day, if you're in this to become the center of attention, don't do this.
Yeah,
you got to love music.
Yeah.
I made Super Arrogant Bros legitimately because I believe that other gaming shows sucked. I was tired of listening to shows where it was like people sucking up to the big guys in the industry. And so what Steph and I do is we honestly talk about like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be spending your money on this thing. And while I talk about how I have no more interest in Star Wars anymore, I moved on to a new love of my life, Warhammer 40K. And so it lit a fire under me where I wanted to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
I was about to say, if you're telling me not to suck up to FaZe Clan, man, we got a little bit of an issue because those guys are absolutely legendary in the Call of Duty community. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when they just made Sports Illustrated, okay? That's enough for me to, yeah, we won't go into that one, but dude.
I don't play video games. I used to play video games a long time ago, but the reason I stopped is because I found them, for me, just so highly addictive. I always say I don't play video games for the same reason I don't smoke crack. I just I can't handle it. I don't have the discipline to not get addicted. So
well, then don't get into Warhammer either. I've spent so much money on models. Oh my God.
I've heard Warhammer is super addictive. I have heard that and the
I haven't even heard of it, so
yeah,
you're ahead of me.
I have a friend who's like 70 years old who's addicted to the Final Fantasy games, and it's just I don't know.
That's exactly it. Okay, so if you are someone that is in your 30s or older, you've got things to do.
Right.
You need to know what stuff is worth your money and time, and that's what we're here for.
There you go. Oh, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Dirk, Don, this has been absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much, my friend. This has been a great conversation.